Welcome to another episode of 9 to 5 Mac Weekly, where orange. We're going to try orange today. Hope it isn't too weird. I am your host, Miles Somerville, and today is the day. The fall tech season has finally begun as Apple officially sent out their invites for the iPhone 13 event. So today, we're going to be going over everything you should expect to see next week. But first, a word from our sponsor. Big thanks to Declutter for sponsoring 9 to 5 Mac on YouTube. With the new iPhones on the way, the value of the current generation models are going to drop, and on average, iPhones lose about 12% of their value after the launch of a new model. So you definitely want to check out channel sponsor Declutter. Declutter offers a really simple and safe way for you to sell your tech, including iPhones. Just tell Declutter what you'd like to sell, and then you can ship your devices out for free to be traded in. And instead of getting credit for your iPhone, Declutter pays in cash and up to 33% more than carrier buyback programs. Phones sold to Declutter are repaired, refurbished, and then given a new home, which helps in reducing a lot of e-waste. So check the link in the description to get the most value out of your current device, hassle-free. Declutter's offering a 28-day price lock guarantee for your iPhone trade-in right now, and you can get an extra 10% when you trade in any device with the code 9to5Mac. And trust me, you're going to want to do this as soon as possible. Thanks to Declutter for sponsoring 9 to 5 Mac on YouTube. Something to always pay attention to when Apple announces a new event is the AR Easter egg that they always have hidden on the website. So when you go on the website, click on the announcement event, it's going to give you this AR teaser. So right now we're seeing a very large Apple logo. And when looking at it here, it seems like there's some sort of see-through element going on. I can play with it, move it around. And I'm also noticing that it's illuminated. So if I were to guess, maybe Apple could surprise us and be bringing back illuminated Apple logos, but on the iPhone. It wouldn't be bringing it back on the iPhone because the iPhone never had it, but the MacBooks did. So if they were to do something similar to the MacBooks and maybe just have the outer edge of the Apple logo be illuminated, that would be pretty hot in my opinion. This is something that's been done through like a cheap eBay accessory if you've ever seen those videos on YouTube. So it can definitely be done, and it would be pretty cool to see from an aesthetic standpoint if Apple did this. But that's really the only thing I'm thinking of when I'm seeing this little AR Easter egg here. The biggest and most obvious thing to expect is the new iPhone 13 models, and because of how minimal the updates are going to be this year on the new iPhones, many people have suggested that it might be called the 12S. Now in all reality, the name doesn't really matter, but from what we've seen, it sounds like it should be called the 13. Apple hasn't used the S branding in the iPhone since the XS was released in 2018, so there's a chance that Apple's looking to move away from the S branding for the iPhones altogether, and if this model is called the 13, that'll basically confirm it. A few days back, we also saw this leaked image of an alleged MagSafe case for the iPhone 13, and this photo was shared by leaker Pink Dawn, interesting name, and in the image it clearly says the iPhone 13. Now keep in mind this image could very well be fake. I've certainly never heard of Pink Dawn before and don't think he really has any track record to suggest that these photos are real, but we'll find out in just a week's time. But one thing we do know for sure is that there's going to be 4 models again this time around: an iPhone 13 mini, an iPhone 13, an iPhone 13 Pro, and then an iPhone 13 Pro Max, which is definitely a handful of a name. And as far as we can tell, prices will more or less be the same as last year, so don't expect a more expensive or really a cheaper iPhone this time around. As far as the features we should expect to see in the iPhone 13, well, if you've been following the leaks pretty closely, then you already have a pretty good idea. But for those who haven't been, just know that this is very much going to be an S year for the iPhone. Nothing revolutionary is coming per se, just a lot of features to refine the experience we already got in the 12 series. The first and biggest feature to expect is the 120Hz ProMotion display. So the iPhone's display is now going to be refreshing at twice the speed, which means that interacting with iOS on the iPhone will have a whole new feel. Everything's going to feel a lot more buttery smooth with that enhanced refresh rate, and if there's any chance that there are going to be 120Hz iPhone games out there to play, that'll be a cool experience on the iPhone as well. 120Hz is really one of those things you have to see in person to have a true appreciation for, so I'm curious to see how Apple's going to market this to the masses. masses, but we'll find out really soon. And screen sizes will pretty much be the same as the current 12 series, so don't expect any different sizes this year. The next iPhone is also expected to come with a smaller notch across the board, as well as an always-on display. Apple reportedly changed the position of the top receiver to reduce the size of the true depth camera, which would allow the notch to be shrunken down a little bit. And given that the new iPhones will reportedly have the same screen sizes, I wouldn't expect this to be a dramatic decrease in size as far as the notch goes, but I think it'll definitely be noticeable. But honestly, I think most general iPhone users don't really care about the notch size or yearning for it to be smaller, but manufacturers like Samsung's are getting extremely close to having the true full screen experience on their smartphones, and after a while it will be time for Apple to catch up. And speaking of catch up, it's been rumored for a while now that the iPhone will feature an always-on display, which is a feature we've had on Android phones for nearly a decade now, so it'll be cool to see what Apple's interpretation of an always-on display will look like. And as you may have seen in recent leaks, there's going to be some slight upgrades to the camera system this time around. Physically, you can see that the camera bump's gotten a little larger, and they tweaked the positioning of the cameras on the 13 and the 13 mini. They're now going in this diagonal direction. But as far as the actual upgrades go, the 13 Pro and Pro Max will feature an upgraded wide-angle camera with an f1.8 aperture and full autofocus capability. We're also expecting to get portrait mode video on the iPhone, which was kind of already debuted through the new FaceTime features in iOS 15 at WWDC earlier this year. Something that the new iPhones arguably had to have was improved battery life, especially for the mini. So this time around, we're expecting to see an increase in the battery size of the 13s, making all of the devices 0.3 millimeters thicker. And personally, I'll definitely take a slightly thicker phone for improved battery life. And when you consider the 120Hz display, the 5G connectivity, the HDR screens, the iPhones are definitely going to need it. And for all of you who fill up your 512GB iPhones with selfies and cat photos, Apple's got a new solution for you, and that's 1TB of storage on the iPhone. Just 3 or 4 years ago, this would have seemed insane to even consider, but now stuff like this is becoming pretty common. And I'm also just as curious to see how much this will cost you, because an unlocked iPhone 12 Pro Max with 512GB of storage is $1,400 new from Apple, so that price tag will be real interesting. There was also a cool report last week from Bloomberg that states that Apple's working on developing LEO satellite communication support for the iPhone 13. This means that if you need to make an emergency call and you've got no signal, you might be able to send a short emergency text or SOS signal out. This doesn't mean you would be able to make calls to anyone around the world without a signal. It would be strictly for emergency use cases and in a very limited way, but it is an interesting preview at what could be coming in future iPhone generations. If you want to know more about the new iPhones in depth, you can check out my video that I did a while back in the corner right here, or you can check out the 9to5Mac article in the description below. But other than that, we should of course expect an updated processor, likely the A15, a new color, and probably 1 or 2 surprise features that haven't been leaked yet, because there's always at least one new thing that we learn at the actual announcement event. But overall, the iPhone 13 is looking solid, and of course, keep it locked here to 9to5Mac this month, as we'll be covering all of the new iPhone hardware when it drops. Now, of course, we're expecting a new Apple Watch at this week's event as well. The Series 7 has been leaked pretty heavily, and at this point, we can almost certainly expect a pretty substantial redesign, and probably the biggest redesign since the watch's original introduction. The Series 7 is supposedly going to feature a flat edge design and a slightly larger display, 1mm larger in fact. I know, it's crazy, right? This seems to confirm even further that Apple's looking to have a universal flat edge and thin bezel aesthetic on all of their products with displays, and I'm not too sure how this will look on the Apple Watch in person, but it won't be too long before we find out. Outside of the redesign, however, this is going to be seemingly a pretty minimal update. We're of course expecting a new processor in the form of the S7 and some new watch faces, probably a new color, and it was rumored that Apple is working on implementing a blood sugar monitor into the Apple Watch, which would be a massively important and innovative health feature, but recent reports have stated that this feature is likely years away, so don't expect a whole lot from the Apple Watch this year outside of the redesign. Now, there's also been plenty of rumors regarding the new iPad mini and 9th generation iPad. The new mini is essentially going to be a baby iPad Air with an A15 processor inside, so you'll have slimmer bezels, the new Touch ID sensor, and USB-C. and the iPad 9th generation will likely have the same design as last year with just an updated processor inside, but it's still very much unclear whether we'll see both of these be announced at the iPhone event. I think 4 iPhones and an Apple Watch is probably good enough to hold an entire event, but I could very well be wrong, so we'll have to just find out next week. But outside of everything I've mentioned, we should of course expect the release dates for all the new OS updates for this year. So iOS 15, iPadOS 15, tvOS, macOS, all that good stuff. And that'll pretty much be it for our fall event, and I'm certainly looking forward to what Apple has in store. This event has already been recorded, so we're just gonna sit and wait for Apple to drop it. So as I said, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon so you're notified when all the new videos drop, because trust me when I say they're coming, they are coming. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks again to Declutter for sponsoring 9to5Mac on YouTube. With the new iPhones on the way, the value of the current generation models are going to drop, and on average, iPhones lose about 12% of their value after the launch of a new model. So you definitely want to check out channel sponsor Declutter. Declutter offers a really simple and safe way for you to sell your tech, including iPhones. Just tell Declutter what you'd like to sell, and then you can ship your devices out for free to be traded in. And instead of getting credit for your iPhone, Declutter pays in cash and up to 33% more than carrier buyback programs. Phones sold to Declutter are repaired, refurbished, and then given a new home, which helps in reducing a lot of e-waste. So check the link in the description to get the most value out of your current device, hassle-free. Declutter's offering a 28-day price lock guarantee for your iPhone trade-in right now, and you can get an extra 10% when you trade in any device with the code 9to5Mac. And trust me, you're going to want to do this as soon as possible. Thanks to Declutter for sponsoring 9to5Mac on YouTube.